Hey guys, in this brief lecture, we'll be discussing Act 2, Scene 3 of Henry IV, Part 1. Here again, Shakespeare reverts back to a serious tone from a comic plot. Shakespeare takes us to the Warkworth Castle, in which we see Hotspur Percy. So again, without revealing the climax of that comic plot, we get to see Hotspur Percy, and he's reading a letter from a lord, an anonymous person whose identity is not revealed in the play. But the letter advises Hotspur and his fellow conspirators to delay the rebellion, to postpone the rebellion. And Hotspur is not at all happy with the letter, being the hot-headed person that he is. His wife Kate arrives on the scene and she asks him to speak his mind, because Hotspur has been talking even in his sleep about war, and Kate is worried about him. But Hotspur nonetheless does not reveal the inner workings of his mind to his wife, because he fears that his wife, being a woman, might divulge the secrets of the rebellion with others. So we shall take a look at the detailed commentary. In Act 2, Scene 3, the play returns to the main plot of the developing rebellion against King Henry. Now Shakespeare here is forcing the audience to wait for a while to see the final outcome of the comic plot. So here Shakespeare is running two stories in tandem. That is, he's interweaving the tale with comic and serious plots. So in this particular history play, we can see an interweaving of both comic and serious plots. And this is to keep the audience interested in the play. Only later on will the two plots intertwine. Now the action takes place in the Percy Castle at Warkworth. This castle is still there, and you can enjoy it if you ever travel to northern part of England. The atmosphere that is there in the castle is conspiratorial. A conspiracy is brewing in the background. Hotspur is alone and he's reading a letter from an unnamed author. The author has written a letter unnamed. So it adds to the secrecy. So something imminent is going to happen, a rebellious thing is going to happen. It adds to the secrecy because an unnamed author has sent Hotspur a letter. Hotspur reads part of it aloud. It is sympathetic to the rebels' cause, but at the same time the author refuses to take part in the rebellion at this time. He says that maybe at a later time I will take part in the rebellion, but not now. But the reasons that the person states for not taking part in the rebellion is not strong enough. Or Hotspur thinks so. The person who wrote the letter thinks that their chances of winning is meager, that there is no chance for the conspirators to win against King Henry IV, at least at this time of the year. But Hotspur dismisses such an argument because Hotspur is more interested in action rather than caution, which means that Hotspur is not willing to take caution this time. He's not willing to take any caution. He is all about action. He wishes to take part in a rebellion. He wishes to wage a battle against the king. So he reacts to this advice with contempt, and he angrily accuses the author of being a coward. Remember in the previous scene, Falstaff called Poins a coward, right? So the theme of cowardice is also coming up. Hotspur's language reflects his loss of temper. He contemns the letter writer. He is angry at the letter writer, and he calls the letter writer a fool, a shallow, cowardly hint, a lack brain, a person with no brain, a frost-spirited rogue. Rogues should be hot-blooded, not frost-spirited, not cold-blooded. So this is a cold-blooded rogue, a rascal. He calls the letter writer a pagan rascal, an infidel. He calls him. So he, in a way, shows his contempt through his words. He assumes that the writer of this letter would betray their cause. He assumes that the writer of the letter would betray the rebels to the king. But this doesn't matter to Hotspur, because Hotspur is setting out to meet the rebels that very evening. The audience quickly see Hotspur's reaction to the letter as an indication of the way in which his temper gets a better out of him. So Hotspur is always swayed by his temper. So his temper gets better of his judgment. He will not listen to any advice because he is all about to take action, and he is hot-headed. So his judgment is always swayed by his temper. To emphasize this point, we now see how he refuses to allow his own wife into his confidence. Now, Hotspur is not even willing to divulge the truth about the rebellion to his own wife. He does not even consider his wife as a person who is trustworthy enough to share the secret. Now, this might have been a shock to Shakespeare's contemporaries, because in those times, men often shared their secrets with their wives. The same happened in the case of Macbeth too. But nowadays, it's not the same, right? But for Shakespeare's contemporaries, this would have come across as a shock, because usually men share their secrets with wives. But here, we see that Hotspur Percy is not willing to share the secret of the rebellion with his wife, Kate, Lady Percy. So the Lady Percy is distressed with her husband's actions, and she says that he only gave her a 2 hours notice before he leaves to see the conspirators. So she knows that something is happening, but she does not know the truth behind the incidents that are taking place in her own home. Hotspur has been behaving strangely recently. He always appears melancholic. He appears sad, and he is deeply introspective. He spends his time thinking about things, brooding. Moreover, he is even talking about war in his sleep. He is talking about weapons and battle in his sleep. So she wonders what is in his mind. Hotspur doesn't even answer her, but calls for a servant and orders him to saddle his new horse so they can try it out. Hotspur's wife is furious at him because he won't reveal his plans to her. But she loves him all the more, and she's frightened for him. In a way, Kate has guessed what is going on. Kate is Lady Percy, or Hotspur's wife. So Kate has guessed what is going on. She knows her husband's weakness, that he is hot-headed, but still he refuses to tell her his plans, because she is after all a woman, and woman cannot be trusted with secrets, he says. Hotspur will allow Kate to follow him, but he is not willing to tell her to where they are going. So in this intimate scene that happens between husband and wife, Shakespeare shows Hotspur up close. We get to see him up close. We get a stronger impression of Hotspur. Hotspur is a very impetuous person. It is important. Hotspur character sketch, you need to write that he is impetuous. The term is here, impetuous. He is impetuous means he takes action without thinking. He is a very impetuous person, and Hotspur's impetuosity is revealed in this scene. And this trait that is there within him, it comes between the relationship that Hotspur has with his wife. But still Kate loves him and she is concerned about him, and they both love each other. Hotspur appears outwardly confident, but from the words of Kate, we get to know that he is subconsciously worried. That is why he is always thinking about battle in his sleep, and he is talking about battle in his sleep because subconsciously he is worried. We get a glimpse of his subconscious through his sleep and the words that he used when he sleep. Now, when we go through the letter that the unnamed writer wrote, we get to know that this person is a very learned man because he is weighing the chances of the rebels succeeding. So, the writer of the letter appears to be a person who is learned, who has some wit, because he knows that the rebels won't succeed. He was weighing the chances of the rebels getting success in this particular rebellion, and he feels that the odds are against the rebels. Now we are left to wonder why Hotspur has dismissed the letter altogether. We feel that Hotspur should have taken the advice of the writer of the letter. Now the audience don't know what decision Hotspur might take. We believe that Hotspur will always act according to his whims and fancies. So since he's a hot-headed person, he will act. He will rebel against the king. So the audience are anxious as to what will happen next. So the audience is left in a linchpin here. So that's all about Act 2, Scene 3. We shall discuss Act 2, Scene 4 in another lecture.